So, what is gleaning? Um, Gleaning, when we picture it, is people the hungry going out into the fields and picking what's left after harvest. Gleaning today is the capturing of what is left in the food system that falls through the cracks at every step along the way. Gleaning is getting it then to the people who need it. Contemporary gleaning today really is about getting food from where it's grown to where it is. Gleaning is a practice that's been going on for centuries, where farm fields left the edges or what was left after the first harvest for the most marginalized in societies. As old a practice as farming itself. As societies have changed, as communities have changed, we're not structured the same way that they were then. We don't live right next to where we grow our food anymore. So the logistics of getting the food that is left in the field to the people who need it is different than it was 100, 1,000, 2,000 years ago. But gleaning as a practice still is incredibly important. It's still a part of the fabric of who we are as communities. We grow enough food so that no one goes hungry. The logistics of just getting it from where it is to where it needs to be is different now than it was a few thousand years ago. So the question is, why do we glean? How do we glean? As a community, we have to decide that we want to capture all the food that's available and offer it to those who need it most. There's so many ways to share the excess in the food system. In every step of where our food comes from and where it goes until it gets from the field to the in person, there is excess that does not make it to market or is not consumed. And each step in the process, each step in the movement of the food through our food system presents an opportunity to glean. Not all produce that is grown now is harvested. Some of the fruits and vegetables develop earlier or later than the rest of it is left behind after harvest. So, and also some of the produce, we've gotten spoiled in our age now. When we go to the grocery store, we want to pick out that beautiful piece of produce that looks just like we see in our magazine articles or on TV. But not all produce looks the same, and not all are the right shape or whatever that restaurants and grocery stores want to sell. Everything from curved cucumbers to small sweet potatoes to oversized squash to miscolored green beans or oddly shaped bell peppers. There's so many reasons why produce isn't harvested. Also, sometimes farmers grow a field of produce, but the price of that commodity drops below the point where it makes sense to spend the money to harvest it, so it's left there. None of these are reasons why the food would be inedible, but they are all reasons why food is available for people that need it. Not all the food that is harvested ends up being sold. Some farmers grow on contracts to grocery stores or distributors, and they have to guarantee that they will provide a certain amount of produce and in order to be paid a certain price. In order to make sure that they fulfill that part of their contract, they'll plant more than is necessary to account for all the crazy variables that farmers have to deal with in agriculture. Rain and when it rains in a growing cycle, the temperature, highs and lows, pests and blight, and everything else that we have the luxury of never having to think about. Sometimes they can find other places to sell that excess, and sometimes not. Farmers will often harvest based on the size and the condition required by those buying the food, but they often do it by sight as they pass through the field. And then produce distributors, though, will often sort and grade what they buy, sorting out produce that fell through the cracks at the farm. More often, though, inefficiencies in the food distribution system all creates more edible food that doesn't make it to people. Packaging errors, mislabeling packages, not holding produce at the exact temperature prescribed by the recipient, damage or mold on one container in a truck will cause buyers to throw out an entire shipment of produce. Sometimes accidental double ordering, or these are all reasons why produce would be rejected by a buyer, but edible food then would be potentially wasted. It all offers an opportunity to glean. These are reasons why food never makes it to our plates or to our stores or to our restaurants. And creates opportunity to share this wonderful food with people that need it. Gleaning the excess is possible at each of these steps. People can and do go and pick the excess from the fields to give community food pantries and feeding programs produce to eat. Volunteers can glean the excess from distributors by going to pick up the excess and carrying it to their local feeding agencies. Food banks and other organizations, including churches, can take large amounts and to share it with their communities. There's always opportunity to share what God has provided, the abundance that God has provided, and to share it with those in need. There are lots of people in need, and there's food available for them. According to Feeding America, there's more than 38 million food insecure people in the United States, roughly about 12% of our population. About 3/4 of those people make less than the threshold for federal food assistance programs like SNAP or the food stamp program. There's so many reasons why people above this threshold also may be in need as well. They lose their job. They have an illness in the family, and medical costs overtake what they make. Rising costs of rent, gas, medicine, people having more people coming to live with them, consolidation of families. No one number can describe the many ways that people may come to be in need. Just in a recent study by a researcher at NC State has shown that in North Carolina alone, each year, roughly 600 million pounds of produce goes unharvested, never makes it to any other steps of the food system. That's enough produce to provide every food insecure person in the state 5 servings of produce every day throughout the year. There's enough food for everyone. God has provided. It is incumbent upon us, the faithful, the people who recognize both the need and the abundance, to get it from where it is to where it needs to be.